Hey dear viewer, this is Almighty Z, and I'm proud to say something I haven't voiced in a while. Project Hail Mary lives up to its hype. Part of what makes this film so good is what it accomplishes on several different levels. It's a sci-fi adventure story with a fantastic concept of an intergalactic problem coming to Earth, but there's a slim chance it can be solved. Great space exploration movies can give a sense of wonder through its visuals, ideas explored, and how our characters solve the problems presented. And Project Hail Mary delivers on all three fronts spectacularly. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, this is a very fun and humorous film to sit through. This is thanks to a great script and directors Lord and Miller from the Jump Street, Lego Movie, and Spider-Verse films. They know when to allow serious moments to breathe, and they know when to make a scene humorous for levity. And without a doubt, Ryan Gosling's outstanding performance elevates this film. Large portions of this story involve his character documenting his challenges or interacting with alien creatures that initially can't communicate in English. So he's working through various problems by talking through them and working with a puppet for many scenes. And he's acting like another actor is present the entire time. And through Gosling's delivery and charisma, each joke or comment sticks to landing. The writing of this character and the story within the film is great on its own, but Gosling was the perfect fit for this role. And finally, the last major element this film succeeds in is the buddy comedy aspect it takes when you meet the alien. I'll explain in more detail in a bit, but the friendship these two form is tremendous. And when they start working together, it brilliantly shows how concepts such as teamwork, problem solving, and friendship are universal across, well, the universe.
Their friendship is the heart of the movie.
This film is optimistic, fun, and gives you a feeling that even those who feel unable to handle the challenges that humanity face can still succeed against the odds. You just need to trust yourself, use your wits about you, and trust good connections you make along the way. You're gonna walk out of this movie uplifted and inspired. And it's a delightful reminder for how great films can make you feel, which we need now more than ever. Now let's go explore this Petrova line.
You have been warned.
We begin with Ryland Grace waking up from a coma on a space shuttle. He slowly regains his senses and discovers not only is he the only one left alive, but he has no idea who he or his crew members were, and he's in an entirely different solar system. So he has to slowly regain his memories. At first, he's able to remember he's a middle school science teacher, but not just any teacher, a former PhD molecular biologist who was scorned at from some controversial paper on life. But instead of turning to make meth like some teachers, he instead gets recruited by scientist Ava Stratt. You see, scientists have discovered something called the Petrova line, an infrared line from Venus to the sun that's also causing the Earth to cool rapidly, and they want Grace to study some samples. He's also chosen because he's expendable.
It's almost like you don't care if I die.
The consensus here is that it would be preferable if you did not die.
Thanks, guys.
It takes a while, but he discovers the samples are impenetrable to any form of electromagnetic radiation and is asked to stay to continue researching this particle called astrophage. Grace, along with Marcus from the Bear, create a makeshift version of Venus's CO2 atmosphere using various supplies from Lowe's. It's a neat little moment and a good way of showing Grace's ingenuity for later on. Through Grace's experiment, he discovers the astrophage is from the sun to Venus because of it's attracted to its CO2 atmosphere, and it's also how it reproduces. This impresses Stratt enough to fly him to a secret aircraft carrier and has revealed the details about Project Hail Mary. You see, the astrophage is dimming the sun too rapidly, and within 30 years, billions will die. And after observing multiple solar systems, it's infected all but one star. But now knowing how to replicate it, the team can use it as fuel. So the plan is to send a team of people on a suicide mission to investigate why said star is healthy, collect the data for a solution, and send it back to Earth in probes.
It's what you Americans would call a long shot.
Hail Mary.
Everybody got that?
Now, the idea of the Earth or Sun dying, and we need to explore space for a solution, has been done before. But the difference here is we have a quantifiable reason why it's occurring, there's a chance it can be solved, and there are several teams of scientists around the world working on this together who all have hope. And with what I just described, you could see this movie being a grand, dark space epic, but through well-paced jokes in each scene, usually from Grace, the tone of the situation is light. When we cut back to Grace in the present, he's gaining more of his surroundings, but also takes time to give his crew members a eulogy. It's a heartfelt moment of him showing respect, but he can only base it from pictures found because he still doesn't remember them, which adds another element of sorrow to the situation. But once he's finished, he gets an alert of an object nearby, and it turns out it's a massive spaceship. Grace is freaked out, and when a metal canister of sorts gets sent to him, he prepares for the worst. but it bounces harmlessly off the ship, and then another one is sent more slowly this time. Grace realizes the ship may be sending a message of sorts, hence sending the container slower this time, and decides to take his first moonwalk to get the next one. It's the first of many moments of Grace willing to be brave for the good of the mission, as being an astronaut is not a strong suit. And although it wasn't easy, Grace gets the container and analyzes it's made of solid xenon, or xenonite. Inside, he sees a collection of balls on sticks with only one ball differently colored, which Grace deduces this is the planet the other ship is from, Forty Eridani. He sends the message back highlighting Earth, and the two communicate for a while through the canister. Eventually, the other ship sends a xenonite bridge to extend to Grace's ship. They both enter, and when they meet, but slowly through gestures, and not that the alien likes tapping on the glass, Grace realizes the alien is pointing behind him to another canister. Grace finds 2 rings with 8 dots on them and realizes these are oxygen molecules, implying his side of the tunnel has oxygen. So he takes a chance and removes his helmet, and he can breathe, which reveals this alien is likely friendly and wants to help Grace. They even coordinate using centrifugal force on both ships to create artificial gravity for the two to talk. And this next sequence is one of the many highlights of the film. Reasoning that time and math is a universal language, Grace begins to communicate with the alien by showing a clock and pointing at the numbers. Grace realizes the alien is communicating not just through his shrills, but also through sonar. And the alien recognizes the clock and brings one of his own. And after hearing each sound from a number, Grace records it and places it into a database, and eventually most common words are translated. And it's so entertaining to see a human and alien problem solve how to talk to one another, through good reasoning and using humorous moments. And despite how much time this takes, it doesn't slow the pace down because you're fascinated to discover what this alien is and how it functions and thinks. And with each new word they understand, the more excited they get at their progress. See, ladies, men can't communicate. Eventually, Grace names the alien Rocky because, well, look at him. Rocky is also a master craftsman, so despite not being able to survive in Grace's atmosphere, he's able to build a hamster ball that allows him to board the Hail Mary. And using a voice modulator that translates his sounds into English, we get to see more of Rocky's personality. And it's so wonderful. It's like seeing an excited child wander through a new environment, always curious to learn more about Grace and what Earth is like. And part of the brilliance with how Rocky is conveyed is the creature doesn't even have a face. So, his emotions are conveyed mostly through its body language, which resonates with people because most forms of communication come from that anyway. And Rocky really likes Grace because he isn't so different from him, and he's been longing for a friend for a long time. He's been the sole survivor on his ship for about 6 years, his home planet is also dying, and he longs to find a solution to help save it and his mate. As the two approach the Petrova line of the star system, Grace collects data samples but is unsure why the system's sun isn't affected. Then Rocky brings forth the idea of other life and helps Grace see in one sample there is a predator organism that is keeping the astrophage population in check. So the two conclude that if they can collect and breed this predator, it can kill the astrophage on their respective planets. When Rocky is happy and tells Grace he can save his planet, Grace replies that this was only a one-way trip for him. Distraught, Rocky replies he has extra fuel and is willing to spare some and take a 6-year longer trip to help get Grace home.
I think I'm going to cry.
And I wouldn't blame you. To see their friendship progress to where Grace has a chance to live after being a good friend to a rock creature is so heartwarming and rewarding to witness. This prompts another memory flashback to Grace working on the mission and meeting the crew that was supposed to go. He was very impressed at how brave they all were, willing to die for a mission that may not even be successful. He even joins their send-off party. But on a later test run, most of the crew die in an explosion, and with no biologists left, Grace is asked to fill in.
I'm not an astronaut.
If you don't go, you die. With the rest of us.
But back to the present, Grace and Rocky must venture into the planet's atmosphere, that they name Adrian, to get a good sample without getting close enough to be pulled in. They plan to do this by fishing for the sample. Grace spacewalks while the ship is piloted just long enough to not crash. In a very thrilling action sequence that was beautifully shot, they get the sample, but the ship starts heading into the planet and Grace gets incapacitated briefly. Although he gets back in the pilot seat, a fuel leak causes an uncontrollable spin to the ship and knocks Grace unconscious. Rocky, witnessing all this, breaks out of his bubble to get the ship stable and drags Grace to the medical bay, despite the excruciating and near-death pain he's in.
Dude, that was kind of a downer.
When Grace comes to, Rocky is unconscious in his bubble, alive but badly wounded. But Grace is determined to find a way to replicate the predator organism and assures himself Rocky will wake up again. It turns out the organism is nitrogen-based, Grace can replicate it, and calls it Tamoeba. But he continues to hold out hope on Rocky's recovery. But one day, lo and behold, Rocky wakes up. Yes! And it's so euphoric when it happens. You want to hug that rock as much as Grace does. Rocky helps with Grace's fuel, and the two say goodbye. And Grace's accomplishment becomes more impressive as it was revealed in one more flashback that he refused to go up in space. So he had to be forced by sedation to go up. He was a scared coward leaving Earth, but he was able to achieve the impossible and help save mankind. Now, how this film ends is my only gripe against the movie. Because after this, Grace runs into a problem where the Tamoeba is able to pass through xenonite containers and eat at his fuel. Although he fixes the problem, he doesn't think Rocky will fix his. So he decides what matters more, returning to Earth or saving his friend. And he chooses the latter. It's a fantastic moment of returning to favor for his rock buddy. He sends the probes to Earth instead, they receive them, and Grace is able to save Rocky and join his homeworld. Over time, he's told there is enough fuel for him to return to Earth, but meanwhile, he's happily teaching young Iridians science. Although I do greatly appreciate seeing Rocky and Grace's friendship continue, as well as how it concludes, and I love every time they're on screen together, I do wish these multiple endings were streamlined in some way. It's not like Return of the King where it needs to be a long ending to wrap up an entire trilogy of films. But this does not hinder the movie badly. Every positive I mentioned galactically outweighs the negative. In the past, I've been very cynical with my reviews overall, and with some future projects in the pipeline, that won't change. But I want to try being more positive on this channel whenever I can. So I'm going to introduce something new to this channel for films or shows that I think are truly extraordinary. I'll be awarding Project Hail Mary my new and illustrious Zeal of Approval.
Oh my god! I win!
Anywho, thank you all for watching. Expect more videos from me, Almighty Z, discussing more media from A to Z. So long.